Okay.
Sounds okay to me. Could you say maybe a little more?
Thanks, Maeve.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. This is the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners meeting for Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022, being conducted virtually over the Zoom platform and also streaming live on YouTube. Commissioner Doug Hunt is excused today. However, I'm Chair Claire Hall and Vice Chair Katie Jacobson are present, and that constitutes a quorum of the board. First up, we have the adoption of the consent calendar. These are routine items or items that have been discussed at previous meetings. Are there any items that staff or commissioners would like to either remove from the calendar or highlight? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
Thanks, and I'll second that motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is approved. We don't have a public hearing on today's agenda. We do have a decision and action item, but regarding mask policy in Lincoln County facilities and property. However, I'm going to use Chair's prerogative and move our weekly COVID and vaccination update up the schedule. And Florence Portal, Public Health Director for the county, is online. So Florence, are you ready to take it away? Oops.
Actually, Commissioner Hall, good morning. Director Romero is going to take the presentation.
Hi,
Okay.
good morning,
Good
Chair Hall.
morning, Jane.
Sorry about that. Florence is kind of dealing with a personal emergency, so I was sort of on standby to stand in for her. So we'll go forward. So we'll start with the next slide. So we continue to have good news. Case rates and hospitalizations are decreasing here in Lincoln County and across the state. Even here within our public health division, we are starting to lay off our COVID-19 response workers, and we're rearranging the remaining staff just to basically address our current needs. And as you know, and as I think you plan to talk about, the mask mandate for indoor settings is lifting at 11:59 p.m. on March 11th. Next slide, please. And of course, I think that we all just need to remember that even though Omicron is in decline, the CDC and the Oregon Health Authority is certainly still encouraging individuals who are unvaccinated, who are immunocompromised, at higher risk of having health complications, or who live with others that are otherwise compromised, consider continuing to wear masks and take other distancing precautions, et cetera, especially when they are in indoor settings. Next slide, please. This is the Oregon Epi curve, and it's a beautiful thing to look at this point, isn't it? So it's certainly on the decline. And next slide, please. Here is our own case rate information, and you can see we're certainly just about not quite a third of the way through the month, and this data is through March 7th, but we are at 36 cases through March 7th, and our positivity rate is at 4.9%, and that's good news. When it goes above 5%, the current science suggests that the rate of positive cases exceeds what we're seeing with tests. So getting below 5% is really a good hallmark for us. Okay, next slide. And then, of course, this is our Epi curve by week, and even by the end of the week of 227, you can see our cases were down to 41. On this particular slide you've seen before, the blue bars represent the case numbers, in 2020. starting in March when the epidemic hit. The red bars reflect a full 12-month period of 2021. And of course, the yellow bars are where we are in 2022. You can see January came in with a bang. We did better in February. And then in March, we're barely seeing the yellow bar there. So next slide. Oregon's hospitalization rate. You've seen this slide. You can see the top dark blue slide shows the daily drop in cases, and we are at about 300, it looks like, on this slide. The medium blue or the middle line shows the hospitalization rate, and then the lower line, the light blue line, reflects individuals who are hospitalized with COVID-19 and who are on a respirator, again, going down. Next slide. When we look at our own hospitals and what they're experiencing, we can see that as of 3/8, as of yesterday, the North Lincoln Hospital had no individuals in the hospital who tested positive for COVID. And then we can go to the next slide, please. Pacific Communities Hospital similarly have had no individuals who test positive for COVID for the past 2 days. Next slide. We can see that our overall vaccination rate of individuals 5 and older who have at least 1 dose of the vaccine is at 85%, and about 45.5% of the folks in Lincoln County who are eligible are boosted. Next slide. And then this is just the percent of vaccinations overall that are booster shots. So you can basically see that as of the 3/8, the March, I guess, 2nd through 3/8, through yesterday, we've administered about 250 doses, and 50% of those are basically booster shots. Next slide, please. We are continuing our vaccination clinics, and they are reflected in the attached site list. And of course, this information is available on our website. And that's sort of a wrap up. So questions?
I don't think I have any questions, but it is very nice to have such good news after such a long battle. And I just suspect it's not over yet, but these are some great milestones. Mm-hmm. Commissioner Jacobson, any comments or questions for Jane?
Yeah, I guess just a question. You know, I think several weeks ago, or maybe a month or so ago, we had talked about, you know, the order of testing kits that we were able to receive from the state, and working on trying to find, you know, kind of those high impact places of underserved populations that they could, you know, get those out to. And my understanding is those have actually gone out to those groups and are being used. Is there any updates on being able to receive more of those to kind of keep that kind of home test distribution going?
Well, it's my understanding that folks can actually get additional tests from the federal government if they go online. So I guess the Biden administration has made more tests available. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not really certain if we will be getting more tests. I think that certainly through our public health division, we received quite a few tests and we've been able to distribute them. But if we need more, I think it's something that we can investigate and make sure that we're able to secure them and get them distributed where they need to be.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Could we ask you to stay on the line for at least a few minutes as we discuss amending the mask policy in case we have questions for you?
Certainly.
Thank you. Okay, we are up to the draft order, amending masks in Lincoln County facilities and properties. And County Counsel Kristen Ewell, are you presenting on this?
Just briefly, Commissioner Hall, this is Kristen Ewell for the record, County Council. And so you've heard Director Romero's presentation, and this is before you for consideration. Currently, we've been following the state's guidance on the mask mandate, so we require masks in all indoor spaces on county property and in facilities. And so this is just a time for discussion between the commissioners, how you would like to move forward. As you know, Director Romero indicated the state has lifted the mandate effective on March 12th. So this is a consideration to also amend our mandate for the county.
Thank you. And I believe we have Sheriff Curtis Landers online. One question that we had last week was whether the sheriff's office would be bringing forth a recommendation on continuing the mask policy within the jail. And Sheriff, would you be able to speak to that now?
Sure. Good morning, commissioners. For the record, Curtis Landers, Lincoln County Sheriff. Unfortunately, we still haven't made a final decision. Lieutenant Russell is actually on a meeting right now discussing it statewide with other facilities. We did learn she's been messaging me that one thing we need to consider and wait for is that Oregon OSHA has not changed their mandate for jail facilities specifically. But it's anticipated that they are going to change that today for the same date that we're coming up with for the rest of the state, but we haven't done that yet. Obviously, we have to wait for that mandate to be lifted before we change anything in the jail. Given that, if they do lift the mandate, we are looking at still requiring basically the N95s in our COVID unit in our jail. And if there are people housed in there, which are people that have a positive COVID test, refusal to take the test, symptoms of COVID, or in an unknown status, and we would still require, actually require full PPE to go into that unit. And we're also looking at still requiring the face covering, the N95, in our booking area when we have custodies in that we have not with a rapid test yet to get the negative result on, so that we can basically the unknown status of anyone coming into the facility before they're able to be housed would require it in the booking area. We're going to open it up in the other areas of the facility, the housing units. Everyone's been tested, and unless there are signs, then they'll go to the other unit where we will require the face coverings for everybody. So that's what we're planning to do. Also can let you know that we heard from Judge Bockhart yesterday. The Chief Justice is planning to issue an order today, I believe, directing the presiding judges to determine the mask requirements in the courtroom, but we haven't seen what that's going to be from Judge Bockhart yet, but in discussing it with her, she does not plan on making mask wearing mandatory in the courtrooms.
Thank you. Any comments or questions, Commissioner Jacobson?
I think you pretty much answered, the questions we had, from last week, Sheriff Landers. So thanks for that. I guess my one maybe legal question I have for Council Ewell is, because we need to take action today on amending our county mask order, but it sounds like there's still some guidance or information being waited on from OSHA in regards to the jail. Can we amend our kind of general mask mandate for the county, and then, I guess revise or deal with the jail sort of mask mandate when that information is released?
Good morning, Commissioner Jacobson. So essentially, the sheriff and I know Director Romero are both going to have some mask mandates in place moving forward. And as a department director, they have the ability to do that, to make department rules. For the order today, I will specifically carve out an exception for those departments based on what your wishes are. We certainly can amend the order. The desire is for the sheriff and Director Romero to, I know she's going to have the masks in clinical settings still based on OHA rules. So, we can craft it in such a way that, if based on OSHA, rules and guidelines for jails, the sheriff will be following those per departmental policy or rules that he sets out based on his
Okay.
sheriff.
Yeah, and the third one that is still under federal mandate is public transportation. So obviously the transit director and transit operations would still be under that mask policy as well.
Yes.
So Commissioner Jacobson, are you ready to formulate a motion?
I am. I think I need to see the order. I think that would be helpful.
So commissioners, I didn't know where you were going with this. So just once you make a decision, just make it on the record, make a motion, and I can craft the order based on what your decision is.
Okay, so question to Commissioner Hall and me putting together a motion here. Would we want to look at, making a motion to lift our existing mask policy for county buildings with the exceptions for healthcare, transit, and jail? Is that what
I
you're
think that
thinking?
sounds right. And if, depending on what the sheriff's office ultimately adopts, we may need to amend it, but I think this gets it in place for right now.
If I could, commissioners too, if you could just distinguish between basically the secure area of the jail, because of course, like my hallway and our conference room would fall under the other county offices and buildings, but it's that secure area of the jail that we would want the flexibility to follow what comes down from OSHA. And
Commissioners, my recommendation is to amend the current mask mandate for the county facilities and property. And then the exceptions will be HHS clinical settings, secure areas of the Lincoln County Jail, unless otherwise amended or changed by sheriff's directives or departmental rules, and then Lincoln County Transit.
That sounds workable to me.
Yeah. Hang on. Okay, I think I'm ready. Thank you. All right, I would like to make a motion to amend our current mask mandate with exceptions for HHS, clinical operations, secure areas of the Lincoln County Jail, unless changed by Sheriff Landers or departmental rules, and Lincoln County Transit.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? If not, I'll ask all in favor of the motion to please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, everybody, and we're ready to move forward there.
Chair Hall, may I
Yes.
ask this one question?
Sure.
And I guess I'm wondering if you would like for us to continue with these presentations or to reduce the frequency of them.
Let's discuss that maybe Commissioner Jacobson at our Monday staff meeting.
Well, I guess what I would say is maybe what we could do is also put that question out to the public right now and have them provide public comment or emails to us in the next week, and maybe let's bring it back up for discussion next week. So maybe next week we'll have a presentation, and then we can kind of look for feedback to see if anyone has strong feelings. I think we probably could move to like an every other week or something like that scenario, but I guess I would like to hear from the public because I know there is a lot of people that enjoy seeing this data every week. We could also just put it up on the website maybe. So anyways, I guess I would say maybe the public can help us answer that question and we can discuss back here next week.
Very good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So to our Executive Assistant, Christy Peter, if you could note that as a likely discussion and information item for next week. Thank you. Okay, we now move on to our one discussion and information item, Tanabe Grant Ocean Shores Permit and Declaration. And Roy Kenyon, our Public Works Director, is here for the presentation. Roy?
Good morning, Chair Hall and Commissioner Jacobson. What I have for you today is basically a few documents that I'm going to present that we're asking for board approval on. As you well know, shoreline erosion is becoming a bigger and bigger problem on the Oregon coast. And in order to stop the erosion, riprapping that area has become the solution for the problem. We currently have 4 property owners in the Lincoln Beach area that are being negatively impacted by this beach erosion, and they are working their way through the permit process in order to get approval to put up riprap adjacent to their property. Christy, could you put up that first map, please?
Is it not showing on my screen share?
No,
Is it showing now?
it is. Very good. Thank
Great.
you. All right, so this is Lincoln Beach, and the hatched areas, you see the one on the south end says 2019 and the one on the north end says 2022. The reason that I'm showing both of these is these situations are very, very similar. What we have is in the middle of these hatched areas is a public beach access, a public beach right away. In 2019, we had 4 property owners who were working their way through the permit process, and right in the middle of them, but in the middle of the 2 middle property owners was a 10-foot wide public beach access. And we went through a process to basically get them the permits in order for them to allow to do their riprap. Now, fast forward 3 years, we have almost the exact same situation. Basically, almost in the same spot. The beach access in this case actually exists between the 2 northerly properties, between the Tanabis and the Grants. It is only a 5-foot wide beach access, but it is still a public beach access in a public right of way. And so what we have to do is reach an agreement that allows or gives the Tanabis and the Grants the permission to riprap across that public beach right of way. And then also what it does is they agree to then maintain that riprap across that public beach access. Next slide, Christy.
Okay, pulling it up now.
Okay, scroll up. So what you see here, this is kind of, if you cocked your head to the left would be north and south, but what it shows is the 4 properties, and it shows that 5-foot wide dedicated public right of way. So scroll. So what we see here is at beach level looking east. The Tanabe house is the house on the left, and the Grant house is the one on the right. And in the middle of that is where this public beach access, and saying public beach access maybe is a little bit misleading. It's actually a right of way. As you can see, there really isn't any access to the beach at that point. Okay, scroll up. This is riprap that actually exists on the north end, beyond their properties. Scroll up. And this is looking kind of southerly. The house on the left is the Grant house. And as you can see, it's actually currently propped up temporarily until they can get the riprap in. And then the other 2 property owners are the other 2 houses there that are part of this permit. And there you can see a better picture of the Grant home that is perched there on the edge. And like I said, that we're working our way through the process to try to get this taken care of. So in order for this project to go forward, the property owners need Lincoln County, 1, to sign off on this declaration. And this is very, very similar to the one that was produced in 2019. This one has been approved by county legal counsel, Councilor Herbage, it has been approved and signed by the Tenabis and the grants. And what this document does is it goes along with the property, so it'll be recorded. And so it says that the Tenabis and the grants are given permission to rip across that public right of way. And basically in return, they are committed to the actual maintenance of that revetment as where it falls within the public right of way, so that the county is not held liable for any future maintenance on that riprap revetment. Like I said, this is very similar to the one that was signed back in 2019. Now, there is a slight difference in the declaration from 2019. As part of the declaration, there was basically steps kind of incorporated into the revetment for continued public access, because at that time you could actually reach the beach. It was, and I did it personally, it wasn't easy and it wasn't something that probably most people would be able to do, but I was able to scamper down and I was actually able to reach the beach there. So there was incorporated into this declaration, there was a requirement to kind of lay in some steps. Now that is not in the one that we're looking at today, for a couple reasons. That there hasn't been beach access at that location between the Tenabis and the grants for some time. I looked at all of the aerial photographs that I could pull up, and I know back as far as 2007, there wasn't any beach access there. And I think the biggest reason is there's right now that vertical cliff that you were looking at is about 20 vertical feet. And I don't think that that has changed that much over the years. There's still been that 20-foot elevation drop. And so I don't believe that the public used that as an access point. So that part, as far as a requirement to try to incorporate steps into that revetment, is not part of this other declaration. So also, as part of this process, there is an Ocean Shores permit application that I also, basically what I need for that is the board's permission to sign for Lincoln County. As part of the permit process, Lincoln County Public Works is named as owner of the public beach access. I guess because, you know, it is public and I represent the public, so I'm named as the owner. Therefore, I need to sign it, but I want board approval to go ahead and sign it for Lincoln County. Now, as far as the Ocean Shores permit, our planning department has signed off on that. So after, if you allow me to sign off on it, it then goes to Oregon Parks and Recreation for the final determination and the final signing of the document. And also the declaration that we were looking at earlier, after, if the board signs it, it also goes to Oregon Parks and Recreation for their signature also. So it's not that we're the final step, but we are getting very close to finalizing this process. So any questions?
Yes, I do have some questions. So if the planning department signed off on this, I'm assuming they believe the request is within the parameters of goal 18 of the state land use planning goals?
That is correct.
Okay, and then this is on as discussion information, but the board could act. Is there any time urgency for us to act today?
I believe that the property owners would appreciate the go ahead today. As you can see, you know, time is of the essence. But that I'll leave that up to the board to make that decision. And on the declaration, there is a line for the board chair to sign only. And also, if you agree to sign that, on the very first page, there is a blank that has, that's asking for a date. And I would ask you to sign that on the date that you, or add the date that you signed the document.
All right, well, those are my questions. I'd just like to say, I understand time would be of the essence here, but still, I think approving riprap is a very big step, one that, I want to see as little new riprap as possible within the boundaries of Goal 18. And I'd like to have the chance to reflect on this a bit and also have Commissioner Hunt participate in the discussion next week. But I'd like to see what Commissioner Jacobson thinks about that and if she has any other questions or comments.
Yeah, I have some Goal 18 questions as well. And so in reading through this, it sounds like, our planning department feels that they are Goal 18 eligible. I guess maybe this is a planning director question, Director Kenyon, but, my understanding of Goal 18 is that sort of public infrastructure, public property doesn't typically qualify for riprap. And so I'm a little confused about how a public right-of-way actually fits into that. When typically you cannot riprap things that are kind of considered public infrastructure. Like I said, maybe that's a Director Husing question.
That is an Ano question. And I actually tried to reach out to Ano this morning to ask him if he, would be able to be on today, and I wasn't able to contact him. So, but yes, that is definitely a planning department question. I'm just going by memory, and I don't remember basically what was said about Goal 18 and what gave us the ability to approve that last one. But I also know on a separate issue that we had talked about doing some work south of Walport on a beach access on the end of Wakanda Beach Road. We were looking at trying to shore it up for emergency beach access, and Goal 18 basically, it was determined that that beach access did not basically qualify for riprap.
Yeah.
18. And so I can't answer that question for you. That is not my area of expertise. And so if you would like, I will make sure that a representative of the county planning department is available next week if that's what you choose.
Yeah, and we don't typically use chat in this meeting because it gets distracting and difficult, but I do see someone say, the county commission's approved a Goal 18 exception for these properties. It's the right-of-way piece I think I need to understand a little bit. So I think I would suggest that we have Ano Husing come back next week. I think that would be of benefit.
Okay, then I would concur in that suggestion as well. So anything further on this topic?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I guess I will make the appropriate contacts, make sure we have somebody from planning available, whether it be the director or one of the planners, and we will pick it up then.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Kenyon.
Oh. I will not be here next Wednesday.
Okay.
But I will, sorry about that. I have a conference that I have to go to, but I will make sure that somebody from planning is here. And so I actually don't have any more to actually bring to the table. So you've heard my presentation. It'll just be follow up with planning.
Okay. And Chair Hall, could I make a quick comment?
Of course.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Jerry Herbage, an assistant county counsel. I did work with Roy Kenyon on this agenda item. I did review the document and made some suggestions which were approved. I understand the question from, I think, Commissioner Jacobson. The point is that the board did approve a goal 18 exception to the subject properties on September 15th, 2021. But I think you're asking, well, what about the 5 feet and so on? But at any rate, I will be available next Wednesday, and we'll have a representative from the planning department there. I hope that the board will be able to act on this matter. As the pictures show, I think that there is an urgency to move forward as expeditiously as reasonably possible.
I'm agreeable to that.
That's all.
Oh, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
agreeable to that. Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, thank you, Council Urbich. Yeah, it's specifically the right of way. That's the question I have. I know we've been through the goal 18 piece with these properties before, and it's that right of way piece. And maybe getting some legal understanding there, because as I recall, we didn't do a specific goal 18 exception for the right of way on its own, but for the properties. And I guess my kind of goal 18 legal question is, does what we did previously cover that right of way under a goal 18 exception? Just wanting to make sure that that is covered, because like I said, a lot of times public infrastructure and public property does not meet requirements for riprap. That's why a lot of our coastal roads and ODOT infrastructure does not qualify. So that's the specific piece I need some clarity on.
Okay, and to Roy Kenyon, I would suggest, as you are asking the board authorization for you to sign the OPRD permit, why don't you go ahead and also have that sent to the commissioners or made part of the agenda so that they're aware of what you would be signing.
Yeah, I will actually deliver all that packet to the board's office today.
All right, then we have a consensus of how to move forward. Okay, thank you, Mr. Kenyon. Now we will move on to our second report on this agenda, a presentation from the Lincoln County Veterans Service Office. And we haven't had an update from the VSO office in a while. And we've had some changing of the guard in the office. And both Keith Barnes, our new VSO, and Caroline Kay, our new Veterans Service Coordinator, are relatively new to the county, just a few months on board. So this gives them a chance to introduce themselves as well. So I'll turn it over to Keith Barnes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall, and thank you, Ms. Jacobson, for having us here today. I think Caroline's here. Is she on?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself.
All right, she is working up at the Lincoln City office today, so she might have some stop-ins that were on the schedule. In case they stop in, she can close her camera and go on from there. A little bit about our office here. I'm an Air Force veteran. I served in 1990 and through 1997 and deployed a couple times in support of Operation Desert Storm. Caroline is also a veteran of the United States Air Force. She just separated back in November of this year. She worked as a medical records technician, and so she brings in a lot of that medical knowledge into our office, which has been of great help. And then Lori Grove, our office assistant, is back. Again, of course, she's been with the county for several years, and now we've got all 3 desks situated, and we're moving forward with lots of appointments and lots of walk-ins. We've kept the office open recently, so we've been doing really well with getting a lot of customers and a lot of clients coming in. Just an overview of the county: we have about 4,800 veterans by the last count through ODVA. In my computer, it shows that we service about 4,000 of them. In 2021, we had about 1,076 office visits, and we brought in about $1.1 million recoveries and new payments. That's new claims and retro pay. Currently, since October, we've been on pace with past years now that we're trained up and are seeing clients and taking taking clients in and making new claims. Can I get the next slide? There we go. Changes, new staff since August. I've developed a new workflow kind of using Google. I'm kind of having now to switch that over to Microsoft, as we know. And both of us have gone through our VSO training and are working towards our VSO accreditation. One of the things I've brought into the office is wanting to mimic the VA's whole person concept, meaning that when somebody comes into our office, just even recently, we had some lady who was looking for a shower chair. She's a surviving spouse, and we were able to take a look at everything, and we've set her up and written a claim for some indemnity compensation for her, which, if it goes through, would be a life-changing event for her, as she's recently had an amputation and been identified as sight impaired. So it's going to be a lot of work for her. But we've also established a community partners office in our office here. We've got phone lines hooked up for them so that they can come in and work, and that's WorkSource. And the Community Services Consortium. So we have them come into the office quite frequently and on a schedule, and they can meet clients, and then we can collaborate with them. The economic impact of the Veterans Resource Center. I did some extrapolation myself through our records, and for each, going through some economic things, for each dollar that we bring in, it could equal anywhere between $1.4 and $7 in economic impact. So I chose the lesser amount of 1.4. In 2021, like I said, we brought in about $1.1 million in new claims, which, using that 1.4 as an economic impact, is about $1.5 million in new economic impact. Going through our veterans, I've found that about the average is about 30% compensatable disability. And this is just my own extrapolation through the record. Would bring in about $27 million a year in compensation claims. That's the recurring claims, whether it be through compensation for disability, pension, or survivor's spouse pension, or compensation for a surviving spouse. That brings in about $37 million a year in economic impact. And that's just through our 3-person office here. One of the reports that I can run through the system is actually showing about $52 million worth of economic, or worth of money coming in. Again, that's, though the system is, as we put in information, we can draw information out, and I don't know how accurate that number is. So I don't want to rely on a, chest pumping $52 million coming in through our office. I kind of like being on the conservative side there. Our goals in 2022 is to continue working with disability compensation and pension claims, continue strengthening our outreach programs. We've been doing a lot more outreach. We're advertising in the newspapers. We've done the radio show a couple times, working with the senior center, both up in Lincoln City and Newport, as well as working with like the VFW and having a day a month out at their the Toledo VFW, so that veterans can come out and see us out there as well. Develop relations with our community partners. I've had a couple meetings now with our community partners, bringing them in so that we can better discuss and have open communication on how to serve our veterans, and working with the Portland VA on their whole veteran health initiative. Been working with a doctor up there who's developed a program for health coaching, and they're looking at using Lincoln County as their model. And so we've been working with them frequently, trying to see how we can collaborate with them. And I've now been in direct contact with the social worker through that program. And we've been on the phone almost every day now, working with new veterans and trying to figure out how to best service them. Next slide. we've got a couple projects that we're working right now. We received a $4,000 grant through ODVA to work on suicide prevention and PTSD destigmatization. No, I still can't say that word. We are having a barbecue April 9th out at the Toledo VFW. We're going to be providing some barbecue. We're going to pay some range fees for their trap and skeet course. And we've got some gun locks that I was able to purchase, and we'll be giving those away. Right now, we've only got room for about 25 veterans to come in. We're going to start advertising this next month or next week and taking RSVPs for that. If it's successful, we're going to try to do another one in June before the end of the fiscal year so that we can use up the rest of that grant money that I have. The other one that we're working with, and I'm very proud of our office and Lori especially for working this project with me, it's honoring our veterans. There was a bill going through the legislature in Multnomah County. They had located, I think it was 36 sets of unclaimed veterans remains. These are veterans that have been cremated, but that their remains or their ashes went unclaimed. So we've been working now with Bateman's and trying to identify their unclaimed remains and trying to determine if any of them are veterans, with the goal of interning them in the Willamette National Cemetery with the veterans there. Now, yesterday we had a success with this program. We located on the list a Coast Guard veteran. And to give you an understanding, once we identify the remains, the names, we then have been going through our computer to see if we have received any, like if they're in our computer system. And then if we have the proper paperwork for them. So it's not just, oh, here they are, we can go forward with it. There's some legwork that we have to do, and Lori's been instrumental in doing that. So we identified a set of remains. Her remains were in her information was in our computer system. We were able to make an expedited request to the National Archives to get her DD-214. And they responded yesterday with that DD-214. And it shows that she is a Coast Guard vet that served during World War II. It being International Women's Day yesterday, it was just almost heartwarming to come across a Coast Guard vet, female Coast Guard veteran who took part in activities during World War II. So we've been able to identify her as being an honorably discharged veteran, and we have located her death certificate. Now we have her DD-214. So I've been contacting the Coast Guard station here in Yaquina Bay to assist with getting her interned up in the Willamette National Cemetery. And to me, that's just a heartwarming, feel-good story right now. So do you guys have any questions for me? Or Caroline?
All right, I want to open it up first to Commissioner Jacobson if she has any questions.
No questions, but thank you for sharing the story at the end. What a great win for that person. And I didn't even know we had women serving in the Coast Guard during World War II. I certainly knew we had other women serving during World War II, but not specifically the Coast Guard. So what a great project for you to be working on, and wonderful that, we are able to locate somebody, that was a veteran and hopefully get them, laid to rest at the appropriate place. So really great story, and hopefully there'll be some others that we can identify as well. That's just great work. So thank you.
So far, we've identified about 8 sets of remains just quickly through what's in our computer. They have like 249 sets there. So some of it's going to take a little bit more legwork. And like I said, Lori has been great on doing that work for us.
And actually, I did have a question, and thank you, Lori, for your work as well. But I guess my question was on this kind of veterans barbecue and gun lock giveaway you're doing on the 9th. You were saying, you may have additional funding or whatever to kind of continue doing that. And I think you said this first one was in Toledo. My suggestion would be just if you continue to do that, to maybe move those around a little bit through the county. I know we do have kind of reopened our Lincoln City office. I think you said you had staff up there today, right now. So that's great. It's nice to see an event happening in Toledo, but it would certainly be nice to think about, how do we incorporate the South County a little bit better, and maybe trying to do these events or something like that there, I think might be helpful towards that effort.
Absolutely. We hope to renew this grant next year. This year, of course, and I'm tired of saying with COVID, but with COVID, we were having a hard time locating a venue that was going to be able to do almost like a plated meal. Most of them were, yeah, we can do something, but it's going to be a sack lunch, and that's not what I was looking for. So as we go through, we will be looking at other venues and trying to continue this through next year as well. Down in Yachats Commons and up in Lincoln City, even Otis area.
Yeah, just a brainstorming thought, and maybe Commissioner Hall can help me because my brain is failing me at this moment, but just a thought that comes to mind on the South County and Yachats is using, what's the youth group that's down there? Kind of the school, Commissioner Hall, what is it called?
Yachats Youth and Family Activities Program?
No, the other one. It's like for young adults.
Oh, I'm drawing a blank as well. I'm sorry.
Okay. It'll come to me as soon as I stop talking. Keith.
Of course.
I'll send you an email. But anyways, at some point they did have a culinary program. I don't think they do anymore, but Job Corps. Janet just jumped in my office.
Hey.
Angel Job Corps. Thank you, Janet.
I wasn't
Janet
thinking of federal programs.
Yes, Angel Job Corps. Thank you, Janet. So I don't think they have a culinary program down there anymore, but my guess is that might be something that their school might be interested in hosting. So you reach out there.
Absolutely. We can reach out and look at that. And again, that might be for the next year's grant program.
Anything else, Commissioner Jacobson?
No, that's it. I think I'd have to use Janet again for my brain if I had anything else to say.
Okay. Well, I just want to say I really appreciate the report. I mean, the economic impact that veterans compensation and benefits have on the county is truly impressive. And that's bringing a lot of dollars into the community. But Keith and I have discussed this before. Of course, the most important reason is to make sure that these men and women who have served, receive all the benefits that they have earned, sometimes with their own blood, and they're entitled to, and do our best to make sure they get what they have earned. And Keith and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about the bill that would have directed each county veterans service office to undertake this project of identifying unclaimed veterans' remains and arranging for their interment. And I loved, it passed the House, but unfortunately died in the state Senate. But I love Keith's attitude. This is a paraphrase, but essentially saying, well, there's nothing stopping us from doing it anyway. And so to know that it is starting to bear fruit is a wonderful thing. So I'll thank you all for the presentation, and we'll check in with you again, okay?
Absolutely. Just one last thing I wanted to say. Yesterday, because of a medical reason at home, I had to take the day off, and I really want to thank Caroline for all the hard work she did yesterday in running the office and making sure that her appointments were met, the phones were answered, and our walk-ins were handled. She did a great job yesterday. So I wanted to publicly acknowledge that and say thank you, Caroline.
And thanks. All right. We will move along in the agenda now. And the next thing is commissioner reports. And I'm going to start off today. I've been working on a statement I'd like to present. It is longstanding county policy not to discuss pending or active litigation we're involved in. I'm going to make a rare deviation from that this morning to address numerous emails the commissioners have received since last week concerning ballot measure 21203. First, everyone needs to know that we are defending 21203 in court. If you don't believe me, ask the 15 neighborhoods attorney, who will tell you that he is working collaboratively with our attorney on strategies to defend the measure. Defending the measure does not mean misrepresenting the law to the court, and the county does support the ballot measure being heard by the Land Use Board of Appeals, or LUBA. However, whether the case is in circuit court or before LUBA, the county will continue to work to defend the measure. Most recently, the county defeated a challenge to its moratorium on issuing new licenses at LUBA, and we have also extended the moratorium for new STR licenses. The county was also successful in defending Ordinance 523 at LUBA, and the ordinance has been upheld. Finally, I would like everyone to realize that the legal process is lengthy and complex, and ask for your understanding, patience, and frankly, the benefit of the doubt. Throughout all this litigation, Lincoln County has worked to defend the measure and uphold the will of the voters to phase out STRs in the unincorporated areas of the county. We ask that you respect the legal process and allow the courts to make their decision. And that's all I have today. Commissioner Jacobson, do you have anything?
Yeah, I would just add on to your statement. I agree with what you said there, and just kind of maybe reemphasize that this is going to be, you know, a long process, a grueling process perhaps, and it would just be really nice to not be both fighting the lawsuit and our own constituents at the same time. I think that would be helpful in the process, and I, recognize certainly from the emails I've gotten that emotions are just really high right now. And like I said, it's not going to be dealt with tomorrow. These processes have a tendency to kind of go on, and it would just, again, be nice to kind of feel like we're on one team with this. And, for all of you, very upset with what you might have read last week. Again, we are defending that ballot measure and have had a nice track record of actually defending other legal challenges we have had to STRs. It's not simply one legal challenge, it's multiple ones that we are facing. And, it may be a long road, but we are defending it. We do have outside legal counsel. And again, it's very difficult to discuss the exact, legal strategy and what we're doing, because then we are simply telling everybody, what that strategy is, which then takes away the approach because the other side may know those things. So it is difficult. I know people are frustrated by, us not talking more about it, but in order to have the strongest case possible that we can, it does require us to not be, openly discussing that case and making sure that we have a really tight case. That is, part of the strategy and defending the ballot measures, making sure that we have a really tight case. So, like I said, I know emotions are really high right now. I can tell from the emails I'm getting, and I just, want to try to assure everybody that, as Commissioner Hall said, we are doing everything we can to defend that. And and that's all I wanted to add. Thanks, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you. Do you have anything else under Commissioners' reports you'd like to share?
One thing I did want to share is, I think, as I mentioned, maybe a couple of meetings ago, we were approved for not one, but two tiny home villages or parks in North Lincoln County, and a third one's being sought after, possibly. And we are now moving forward on trying to find an appropriate organization to actually run those tiny home parks. So having a multitude of conversations with various nonprofits to think about who might have some interest and capacity to be running those projects, and then looking at what I think is kind of the fun stuff, like how you actually design them and on-site laundry and kind of the more fun stuff of designing a project like that. The other thing about fire that I just wanted to update is there is case managers now available, disaster case managers for all wildfire survivors. I was told there was initially an issue with the 411 system. People were told to call 411, and they would be, put their information in the system, and then they would be called back by a disaster case manager to help manage their case. I guess there was some type of problem with 411, and it was scrambling phone numbers of people when they would put them in. So when the DCMs would call back, they were not able to actually reach that person because the phone number was incorrect. So super, super frustrating for everybody, as I can imagine. My understanding is that that issue is now fixed and it is working properly as it should have always been. And additionally, if you just don't trust 411 anymore, they do have people at the Salmon River Grange that can kind of help you, handhold you through that process to make sure that your information is taken in correctly. So just kind of another reminder that there is disaster case management services for wildfire survivors out there. And like I said, if you experienced that problem previously, it has been fixed. And while I'm not a wildfire survivor, I actually called it myself, left my phone number, and did get someone to call me back. So it does actually work. I actually tested it myself to make sure that it does, and it does seem to be working. So that's all I have. Thanks.
I'm sorry, I didn't unmute just a moment ago. That moves us to public comment on the agenda, and I'll ask our Executive Assistant Christy Peter about written public comment. As we've already mentioned, we have had numerous emails on the subject of 21-103. Did any messages on other topics come in through our smart sheet?
No, we have not received any written public comment, and we don't have anyone in the waiting room to provide live public comment either.
Okay, then that just about wraps things up. I'll mention that on Monday, March 14th at 9 a.m., we'll have our weekly office staff meeting conducted virtually. And on Wednesday, March 2022, this year, of course, at 10 a.m., we'll have the virtual Board of Commissioners meeting. So until then, we'll see you next week. Thank you.